It's Martin Lindstrom. I'm a New York Times bestselling author of 8 books. I'm also an advisor and creator of brands around the world, from Uber to Lidl, Google, Lego, and the Walt Disney Company. But I'm also an advisor to Archi, and I'm very proud to share with you today the new evolution of the Archi logo. Now, before doing that, I just want to take you back in time to my work with Lego. We've worked with Lego for more than 35 years. And during that period, the brand has undergone an evolution, perhaps even some may say a revolution, back from its founding days until this very day, where the logo and the logo mark, which is so iconic, looks profoundly different. Now, why that? Well, it's very simple why. Just as the consumer evolves, well, so does brands, in order to mirror what really is the mindset of today's consumer. And that's exactly the reason why we have worked on the Archi brand identity, taking it to where it should be in this very day and age. So, what is the result of all this work? Well, the result is very simple. You started with this identity, which I'm sure you recognize very well. The new identity have undergone a couple of new tweaks and changes. 3 principles were used in order to get to where we are today. First of all, the brand is too tall, difficult to show on buildings, difficult because sometimes that shape doesn't fit to the formats required. The second principle to evolve this was to say, hey, what do we do when we expand into new types of categories? For example, if you go into the premium category, can we really use this identity for that? And third, we want to make it timely and relevant for the style and the colors and that preference consumers have today. So with that, I'm proud to announce the new Archi brand identity. This, as you can see, is still a familiar shape, at least if you ask consumers. It has roundness introduced to it. In fact, because consumers increasingly want to see round shapes rather than harsh shapes. It's lower, as you can see, and there's a nicer harmony between each of the different shapes and formats. But it also contains another element I'm going to share with you in a second, which is what I call smashability. In 1915, the Coca-Cola bottle was invented. And the briefing was to develop a bottle so smart that if you drop it on the floor and it smashes into thousands of pieces of glass, you can still pick up one piece of glass and recognize the brand. Now, that has been the foundational principle for how we evolved the logo. And the way to do that was to take certain shapes and make them become prominent. That's the reason why you see this roundness adopted to the logo, and exactly has been the foundation for us to work and evolve the font used for the new brand. This is the font you know from the past, and then we took basically these round shapes, put them around the new font, and this is the way we're writing Archi today. This combined is taking the old identity you have here to the new identity, which then is migrating not just the logo mark but also the brand mark, having these 2 new distinct fonts in mind. So this is the Archi brand using the Georgian font, and this is using the English font. Now, what does it have to do with smashability? Well, it's very simple. If we really want to make it concise and interlinked, we also need to make the font very distinct. And that's what you see happening here. You actually can see that both the Georgian font and the English font seems to be in the same family. You kind of feel the same roundness, the same smoothness, and that's very much on purpose. That is the smashability we're talking about, that people intuitively feel just with seeing a letter or 2, they belong together. And that, of course, has led us to the interlinks between the brand, the logo font, and of course the whole harmony, creating kind of a little bit of a castle feeling. Now, where does this take us Now, well, what happens is that we're taking the base brand and we're now going to evolve it into the new hierarchy for Archi. What do I mean about that? Well, as you know, you develop some successful developments across Georgia and the region. But the question mark is, what do you do when you go into the premium category? Will you then be able to differentiate those two different directions? And that's the reason why we're now introducing another level of branding. We are starting to work with different formats of colors. And yes, we're starting to work with different formats of background. Now, this is the result of that. Now you will see that if we work with premium brands, we're going to work with different types of colors. Now, this is still work in progress, but you probably have heard about the Grand Avenue from Archi. Well, this is the way we place it underneath our logo mark. Masterpiece collection, this is the way we place it here. And for whatever new development, partnerships and alliances we're going to create in the future, that will appear underneath the line. Now we can even go further. We can take the logos of each of those entities and place them underneath, and they're not conflicting in a great way. And this is what's so powerful about this design, that as we have so many hierarchies of messages, normally you would not be able to put them together. They will simply clash, which is really not the case here. So yes, we can choose to either write Grand Avenue or use a graphic piece. We can work with Masterpiece, either using a font or actually have it handwritten. And we can place the logo of any other organization underneath the Archi, and then we have the fine balance between the two entities coming together. This is the new evolution of Archi. It's timely, it's smashable, and most importantly, it takes into account the different hierarchies we most likely will see happening in the future as Archi evolves into become not just a Georgian pride, but an international sensation. Good luck with it.